back, everyone. Welcome back to the How to Podcast series. I have a guest returning with great news of great joy, which is exciting. We have Tiffany's back again. We're going to be talking about her updates. We were on together. We chatted about podcasting. Some things have been acted on and some great news. Tiffany, welcome back to the podcast. Nice to have you here.
Oh, thank you so much, Dave. I'm so excited to be back. Yes, last podcast, we talked about so many just great, what I would call nuggets, right? Like how to start. And I've implemented them. And I just want to tell everyone out there today, my schedule is crazy. So if I manage to implement them, there is hope. There's absolute hope in doing that. And so, yeah, I'd love to share what's come of it, Dave.
Okay, let's go. If you haven't heard that episode, you might want to pause this and go listen because Tiffany brought so many great ideas and we had a great conversation together. And before we get into that too much though, tell everybody about what you do with your husband. So many great stories coming out. I get chills when I talk to you, to be quite honest, because there's so many great things happening. Tell everybody about Yielded Life. Tell everybody about what you guys do before we start getting into our conversation.
Oh, thank you for that. So my husband and myself, we have a ministry called Yielded Life, in which we really just practice the principle of completely yielding to God. And he does the miraculous. Right now, we're really focusing our attention on prison ministry. We really want to be there for those who are bound. And if that's something that someone wants to support or find out more about, you can do so at www.yieldedlife.org. We would love you to follow us as we follow Christ because things are happening and it's just a powerful move of God that is going on behind bars.
And the two of you both have your own amazing stories. You are both quality people. I love chatting with the both of you. I've had a chance to talk to you both separately. And I don't know, there's just good people in the world and you represent them well. So thank you so much for being on the podcast again. Now let's do some updates. We talked about a few things our last time together. You've taken the action, you've taken the steps. And like you said, you're a busy person.
Yes.
You still made time to do this, but you saw results.
Quick.
So let's pick off some of the things that you did and tell me some of the results. I want to share them with the audience as well.
So, I love doing things in what I call manageable morsels, right? Like give me a couple of things to work on at a time. And so one of the things you had said was reach out to your tribe. You have a community. You just don't know that you do. Reach out and tap that and just say, hey, is this something you'd like to support? And Dave, I got to say, I found this a little hard because I felt like, well, starting a podcast is more of a personal endeavor, but not really. Not really. You're really providing a service. These are things that we can give back to the community. So I reached out to just a couple of friends, kind of just texted them, literally a text, and just said, hey, this is what God's doing. And I'm so excited to be a part of that. And hey, is there a way that, you could listen in or pray for us, that kind of thing. And I had someone immediately within a second go, oh man, if you're going to choose to do a hosting site, I'll pay for that for you for a year. No thought at all. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is incredible. The very same day, Dave, my husband was like, you know what? Let me reach out to one of our friends who's in the audio business and let me just kind of share with him what kind of hodgepodge equipment we have. And would he like to come and take a look at it, help us set up a space here at home? And he said, not only would I like to do that, but I'd like to finance some of the equipment because I believe I know what you need. I'm blown away, Dave. I'm blown away.
What is going on?
And because me, like many of your listeners, my budget to start this podcast is meager, right? And so I'm like, oh my gosh. The third thing that happened is my Monday morning show is Coffee and Tea with Tiffany. It's live on Facebook at 8:30 a.m. And so I have a dear friend who just started a coffee business. And so I reached out to her. It's called Cager's Coffee. I reached out to her and I said, hey, listen, do you have a great ground decaf? I'm trying to do a little more decaf in my life. And she goes, I do. I want to keep you stocked. Let me start sending this to you. And I said, I'll promote you on my show if you'll send it to me, just as a return favor blessing. Wow. And so it's happening. It's everything that is happening, Dave.
Wow. See, like that's amazing. That's so great that you reached out. And I knew because of the quality people that you are and your husband is, I knew that your community would love to support you. And again, there's just, maybe they can't give you monetary funds at the moment because everything is tight. There's a lot of people struggling right now, but there's gifts, talents, abilities, People can give back to you their talent, their time, or their treasure.
Yes.
Right? There's things they can give to you that maybe they don't have treasure at the moment, but they have time and talent that they can offer to you and they can help you. So amazing. Well done on acting, by the way. Acting and putting it out there.
It was the great advice. It just paved the road. And, truthfully, I think we underestimate the people around us just by going, I don't want to be a burden to someone. And no one saw it as a burden. Everybody saw it as an investment. And so I just want to encourage people, Dave, to do the same thing I have. If you're listening, see who's in your tribe, see who's in your community today. Yeah.
Nice. Amazing. Okay, that's great. That's a great way to start the episode. And I'm happy. And thank you to your community as well. If you're listening, thank you so much for supporting this great couple and what they do and the lives they change. It's not because of us. It's because of something much bigger than us. And I'm so thankful that we have a small part to play in the change in people's lives. It's great. And the podcast is a great way to share your message. So it all ties together really well. You had some other thoughts to talk about today that we wrote down, and so we'll see where the conversation goes. But you were thinking about the whole idea about monetization. What are you thinking? What are you guys toying with? Have you tried any types of ways to bring money into your podcast at all?
We haven't, but our ministry is fully funded by donations from givers, right? And so we thought of this as just an extension to that platform. This is a way for us to minister, to reach out to other places and other countries and wherever God would allow. And so we're just wondering, is there a way, a healthy way to go, hey, can we possibly monetize this so that we make it actually grow and grow our, everything from audience to equipment, right? And I think that many people are probably, tossing that thought around. So I'm just wondering, David, if you had any thoughts on that.
There are many different approaches. You can have commercials in your podcast where you break away from the content and you have a sponsor that you talk about. I think sponsors really like to have the host read their ad within the podcast instead of another voice. They would rather it come from the host because it's something like we talk about the coffee. It's something that you enjoy. You know the person. You can vouch for them. You trust them. You have a relationship with them. And as a listener, I know you're not just selling me a product that you've never had or tried, but you're selling me something and offering something to me that's a bonus to me that you think would benefit me as a listener. So I trust you. That's the first thing. I come to the podcast because of you. The content brings me in, but I stay because of you. So if you say to me, Dave, this is my favorite coffee and I really enjoy this coffee in the morning, and here's the link to come buy the coffee from my friend, that I trust. If you said to me, Dave, here's a mattress I've never purchased and I don't know anything about it, but I'd like you to buy it. As a listener, I'm thinking, I don't understand the connection between a mattress and your podcast because you don't have anything attached to it. You don't have any connection with it. You're just selling me something. And I don't know about you, when commercials come on the radio or television, I usually find something else to do while I'm waiting for the commercials to go away.
True.
Right? I might change the channel on the radio station and never come back. Something else might hook me somewhere else and I don't come back. So in a podcast setting, you need to decide what's going to work for your content, what's going to work for you. Do you want the potential that maybe if you don't have a connection with a sponsor that your listening audience might go, this is not for me. What happened to Tiffany? What happened to the show? Right. So you need to kind of decide, where do you sit on that? It's really, there's no right or wrong, just what's best for your community.
That's some really powerful feedback. What I love about the opportunity, the one especially I was mentioning with a woman here who does local coffee, right? It can be an opportunity to promote local commerce, to kind of reinforce that. And I love that. I love the small businessman. I love the farmer. I absolutely want to see people, get a little bit of an advantage, against big box brands sometimes. So that's wonderful. So I like that. I like that feedback, Dave. Thank you for that.
And the nice thing is if you include it in the podcast where it's not at the very beginning or at the very end of your show, but kind of in the middle.
Yeah.
And you bake it into the conversation. So it doesn't feel like you've stopped the content to do a commercial and then you return from the commercial. but you just kind of blended into the conversation. That is really nice, because what happens for that host, for that person that's donating to you or sponsoring the show, is that when your podcast goes out into the world, it lives out there forever.
That's true.
And people can hear that commercial, that discussion years from now. So you've included them into the content, and then it just keeps coming back to them over and over. Make sure when you do show notes, which is all the information that goes with the podcast, that you include a link to them as well. So people listening to the show can go, what was the name of that coffee? And they can click the link and go right to them. And what you can set up maybe with that sponsor is a way for them to track the traffic that comes from your podcast. So maybe there's a special link, that has the name of your podcast in it, or Tiffany or something. Use the code Tiffany when you reach out to this coffee sponsor, and then the coffee sponsor knows that you sent that link to them through the podcast.
That's wise. I like that.
Okay.
I love that.
Okay.
Yeah. And I think what else was kind of just roaming my mind was advertising. We have our own personal social medias. We even have our web pages. But how much and how often, we don't want to plague everybody we know every 5 seconds with unwanted advertising. So is there a way to do it that's, this is more streamlined? Do it this way.
Okay. So the first question is, where does your audience reside?
Okay.
Because you need to advertise where your listening audience is or could be.
Okay.
So if your listening audience is not on, say, LinkedIn, maybe your audience isn't there. Don't spend any money there, because it's not going to return any value for you.
Okay.
If your listening audience is on Facebook,
yes,
then you could do targeted engagement through Facebook. They have a great way of determining if you want to focus locally or globally, or based on a topic, a person. You can really focus in and do that as well. So having a Facebook business account for your organization would be really a good idea if you don't have that already. And then you can do ads, and you can pick exactly who you want, targeted for a certain period of time, and then share your podcast out directly with them. So that's one way. The way I like, and what I'm playing with right now, is targeting listeners where they listen. So not everyone in my community is on a social media website, Facebook, Instagram, but they're on a listening app.
Okay.
So where they listen to podcasts, I advertise where the listeners are. So you can put ads out on different apps, and where they're listening on the podcast and they listen to this show, there'll be a banner ad, there'll be a little pop-up ad that brings people to your show, advertising directly to listeners of podcasts. And you can pay for those, and you can have different times of the year that's cheaper and more expensive, different categories you can pick. And then you can focus ads towards people who actually listen to podcasts. It's a little bit easier. It's kind of like fishing when the pond is stocked with fish. That's where they are. It's going to catch a fish more likely there than anywhere else, because they're listeners of the podcast.
Oh, I love that. That's good information. I think one of the things is no one wants to exhaust people by plaguing them with unwanted advertising. And so I like the idea of the target as advertising, especially on Facebook. And, I've looked into it a little bit, Dave, and if I'm correct, you can kind of work within a budget. So if you know, and I know what my budget is, then it's not an exhaustive cost either. So I like being able to control the budget a little bit on that.
You can also reach out to your community and say, we're looking at advertising our podcast, and we're looking for sponsors from the listening audience. If you'd like to donate $20 a month, we'll take that money and advertise our podcast and reach more people.
Wow.
And then you can have people donating to you and take that money and then thank them on the podcast and say, everyone, Dave from Ontario, Canada donated this month. Thank you, Dave, for donating. We've actually been able to buy 5 different advertisements. We truly appreciate you. And if you want to support the show, head over and give us a donation, and we'll take that money and spread the word of the podcast. Thank you for donating.
Oh, that's huge.
So you don't even have to pay for it.
Dave, you have the power of the ask. If so many of us could grasp it, I almost missed it here. I've implemented it and almost missed it again. But that's amazing. Okay, I'm seeing it. I'm seeing the light. So I love this. I really love that somehow, I think in my mind, a podcaster is, just a solo artist, if you will. And somehow the picture is now, reframing for me that it's not. This is a community based, almost missional assignment. Hey, will you get behind this and back it? And so I'm loving this. I'm loving the co-op opportunities, if you will,
Mm-hmm. And then another thing that you can think about as well for your organization, for any registered charity, for example, you can actually give charitable receipts for services. Yeah. So if you had someone do your audio engineering, do all your editing, that could be $60 to $100 per episode.
Oh, wow.
That most people would be paying for. You could give a receipt, a donation receipt, instead of payment to the person who does the work for you that they can claim on their taxes for donating their time to you to help you with your editing or with whatever you need. A virtual assistant, that you can give them a donation receipt from your organization for any type of charitable organization. So use the power of your ability to give those donation receipts and have people donate their time to you. That's a great way to get support. And there's no money transaction. You're just giving them a donation receipt.
That's so good. I'm loving the mutual blessing, because I think for givers, and I want to say that most of us in the podcast community, we're here because we feel like we have something to offer. And so it's really hard sometimes just to receive. So I like this. It kind of gives that blessing as well of going, we can do this together. So I'm loving the thread of that, Dave. I really am. So I had a question that just come to my mind. I want to ask, if there is, and I don't want to put anyone on the spot, but if there is, what's the one piece of information that you wish you would have known about podcasting? Like if you had all the basics down and the one thing that you wish somebody would have said, that's the thing,
Yeah, I think it all comes around building community.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's really the hardest thing at the beginning for me was when you start out with 0 listens, no one knows who you are. You put your podcast out into the world and you see 1 or 2 listens come in and you're like, is this good? I don't know what good is. First of all, as a new podcaster, what is good? 100,000 downloads? 5 downloads? I don't know. And then you go into a lot of noisy rooms on social media and you start comparing yourself to others. And you start getting a little bit down on yourself if you're not at the same number as someone else. So I think early days for me, I did compare myself to a lot of other people and got just kind of discouraged at times that I wasn't having the same success as someone else in my area. But I found that podcasting is all about comparing yourself to yourself.
Oh, that's good.
You need to look at how did you do last week and how did you do this week? Did you see an increase? Are you getting more engagement? Are you offering value? Are you getting better as a podcaster? Do you sound more confident? Are you giving great value? Are you being more organized? Are things getting faster and easier? Are you developing as a person? And then is your audience growing? 1 person, 2 people? Like if you were to do a conference or get up and speak in front of a group of people and there was 5 people there at a small event, would you come up to the podium, to the microphone, look out into the massive crowd of 5 people and go, this isn't really worth my time. Sorry, everyone, I'm going to go. Would you do that?
No, absolutely not.
No. Right? We have expectations. We would like to have a certain number of people we reach. We're putting a lot of time and effort into this. We do have a goal. We want to reach as many people as possible. But do the 5 people matter? Because if you can make the 5 people matter, the next time you come to the mic, there'll be 10 people. And those 10 people matter, and there'll be 20 people next time. It just keeps going up in steps. So pour yourself into that. I recently been starting a thing on meetup.com where people can come and meet with me, and we do a live over the internet chat like we're doing now, but with multiple people anywhere in the world. And we talk podcasting. So I set up a meetup this week. I had 6 people sign up. 1 person showed up.
Okay.
And they looked at me like, are we going to still do this? Because I feel bad. Where is everyone? And I said, you have me one-on-one for the next hour. Let's get in and talk about your podcast and your plans. And I went through my entire slide deck, everything I planned for the 6 people that were supposed to be there. And we had one-on-one time, question and answers, back and forth, built relationships, and now we're going to work together in the future. And I want to help this new podcaster start their show. So I could easily have said, you know what, there's only one person tonight. It's really not worth my time. Have a good night. Bye, Tiffany. See you later.
Right.
What about that person that set aside time to show up, to be with me, to learn about podcasting? What would their opinion of me have been if I had just said, this isn't worth my time? I'm sorry. There's only one person.
Yeah, that's so true.
Right.
What a fortunate person, because I know firsthand you are a wealth of knowledge. And so what a fortunate person he was that day. But I love that. I love that. You know, one of the things that me and you have talked about a little bit is feedback. And so here's my thoughts. So we get a couple of shows out. How do we get the feedback? Do they email us? Do our listeners email us? Do we even do that? Do we open ourselves up for feedback? I think everybody cringes a little bit, right? We all want the accolades, but nobody wants your sound quality stinks or whatever it may be, you know? So right. What do you do?
Okay. So have you ever gone to a paint store to paint your house?
Sure.
And there's a wall of paint swabs of all the different colors. And there's like 85 colors of purple. You're like, 85 purple? Like, do we need 85 versions of purple? Can we just have 2? Dark purple and light purple? I don't know. I'm a guy. That's kind of how I look at paint. But you walk in and you get overwhelmed by the choices. You get overwhelmed by all of the different colors and all the different selections. And you're like, I can't decide. There's too many choices. So when you're reaching out to your audience about having feedback, make sure that you don't fall into the trap of too many options.
Oh, okay.
Give them one option, one way in this episode to reach out to you. You can change it in the next episode and do something different. But for today's episode, here's the one way I want to speak to you. Let's connect this way. Go to my website and leave me an email. And then stop talking. That's it. Don't say, and follow me, and do this, and this purple, and this purple, and this purple, and this purple. Because your listeners will be like, there's too many options, Tiffany. I don't know which one to do. I don't want to make a mistake, so I'm going to do 0 of them. I'm not going to do anything.
Right.
Right? Because you gave me too many choices. Give me one option, and then try that for maybe a month, where you do one option every episode, and see if it works. If it's not working the way you want, then switch. Try a different option. Try that for a month, and figure out what your audience likes. For me, I have SpeakPipe on my website, which is an audio option where you can go to my website on your phone or on your computer, and you can leave me a voice message. Yeah. So I get an email comes into my inbox. I can listen to it from my inbox in my email, or I can go to the website and download the actual audio and then pull the audio into my podcast as a recording from my listener. And now here's Tiffany talking on her podcast. We're sipping coffee. We're doing this. Oh, we had a message from Dave in Canada. Dave, here's Dave's message. Hi, Tiffany. This is Dave. I listened to the show. Just had a question about this from last week's episode. Can you answer this question? And you say, thanks, Dave, for your question. Here, let's talk about the answer on the show today.
Wow.
And then you say to everyone, hey, if you want to have your voice on the podcast, if you want to interact with me on the show and let the world hear your voice, how cool is that, first of all, as a listener, that Tiffany took my call, Tiffany took my message, and she played it for the world. I'm on a podcast. I'm not even a podcaster. I'm a listener, and all of a sudden, that's my voice. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to share that episode with my entire community so they could hear my voice on your show.
Wow.
Hey, everyone, I was on a podcast. What's a podcast? It's a thing. Anyways, here is me on Tiffany's podcast. You got to hear my voice. This is amazing. So you're going to get that kind of response. And as that works, and as you do that on a regular basis, you'll get more interaction. The interaction grows. And then people go, every time I hear Tiffany say that if I leave her a voice message, she'll use it in her podcast, I'm going to try it. And it worked for me. I say it at the end of my show. And I had somebody think, there's no way this guy's going to really do what he says. And they said, but I keep hearing him say it over and over and over. So I'm going to try.
Right.
He's not going to respond. He's not going to respond, Tiffany. Like, who's going to do that?
Right, sure.
So they tried. They had a response the same day from me. And then they showed up on the next episode of the podcast.
Oh, wow. Wow. I love that.
They took a chance.
Interactive. That's awesome.
See?
Yeah.
So that's how you build community. It's all one person at a time. And that's what I love about this community building. It's not where you can get 1,000 people in 1 week to come to your show. I get emails like that all the time.
Wow.
I would love to help you grow your show. I can get you 1,000 listens. I can get you ratings. I can get you this. I build my audience one person at a time, one conversation at a time.
Okay.
Because that's how I grow my show. And it's going to take a long time to do that. But like I said, 5 becomes 10 very, very quickly when those 5 people feel loved, cared for, encouraged, and involved. When you do that, they tell 2 friends very, very quickly.
Wow. And, that really is the kind of advertising I hope for. And I think most people do. I want to know my audience. I want them to know me. At the end of the day, I'm just a Southern lady on the porch with some sweet tea. And so I really want to have that kind of two-way conversation and connection. And so I love that. I love that we can actually invest in each other that way, if you will. Now I'm going to ask the question that maybe some people are thinking of too. All right. The positive feedback were great. Have you ever got, or what do you do when you get the feedback that just goes, you should just probably stay home and not podcast? Have you ever gotten anything like that? And what do you do? Because I imagine if you get 5 or 10 good emails, and then you open that 11th and you go, oh, what happened at that moment?
So what if there's an element of truth to what they're saying?
Okay.
So think about it this way. For the most part, if someone really doesn't like your show, it's not like they're forced to listen to your show. They don't have to listen. They just stop listening.
Sure.
And maybe they're not your community. They're not your tribe. It's okay.
Okay.
Podcasting is not mandatory for everyone to listen to your show.
Sure.
And some shows connect with people, some shows don't. I've listened to shows and there's something about the host or the content or something, and it's just like, I've tried it for about 5 episodes and I just can't. There's something I can't connect.
Okay.
For some reason. It could be me as a listener, just so you know. It might not be the host at all, but there's just something not connecting. So that's not my show. And I move on and I find the next one. And that could happen to any of us. Sure. And I'm sure that's happened to my show many, many, many times. Most of the time I never know, though, that people don't like the show. If somebody takes the time to reach out to me and gives me feedback about why the show's not connecting with me, then I feel like they've gone beyond just being critical. They're trying to give me help and feedback. That's the lens that I look at through it as, even if it hurts. That maybe my microphone is not great. Maybe I go on tangents.
Okay.
Where I'm supposed to be talking about this topic, but I always seem to be talking about something else.
Sure.
And I keep coming back to that topic and then I go away again. And my listeners I don't really want to know about your cat. I'm here to listen to you about how you help people in prison.
Sure.
And I'm here for that, right? But you keep going to the cat. Why do you keep talking about the cat? Can we talk less about the cat and more about your prison ministry? And you're like, you know what? I do talk about my cat way too much. Either start a podcast about your cat and then have a podcast about the prison ministry, then keep them separate if that's your passions. But maybe don't distract your audience. Maybe it's the audio quality. Maybe your podcast is too long, too short. Maybe you don't get into detail. Maybe there's something missing from it. There could be an element of truth in there. So what I like to do, if I get anything that seems remotely negative, first of all, I never react in the moment. Never. I put it aside because I'm not in a good headspace to respond with intelligence and with passion and with humility. I'm not, because I feel like you just took a shot at me and that doesn't feel good. So don't react in the moment. Put it aside.
Okay.
And then when you have the time to go through and listen, look at the specifics. And the one thing somebody told me early on was, if someone has a problem with you, you are part of the problem.
Okay.
To some degree. It could just be that you're there. You're just in the room. and someone else having a bad day and they take it out on you because you're just there. They don't know your name. They know nothing about you, but I'm going to go after you because I'm having a bad day.
Sure.
And you're like, what did I do? I didn't even do anything. I'm just standing here, right? I'm having my coffee and my tea, and who are you and why are you angry at me? You're just there. So that could be as simple as it is. But if somebody has a problem with your podcast, there could be an element of truth in their comments that could make your podcast so much better.
Wow.
And reach more people. Because again, why would they take the time to reach out to you? If we're struggling to get good comments, how much harder is it to send a bad comment? Someone had to stop what they're doing, jump on their phone or their keyboard and type something to you. I look at it, they have something to offer my show to make me a better person.
Wow.
Now, if it's full of hate, if it is that, then I never let that get to my heart.
Okay.
And I delete that. I delete it.
Okay.
It never happened.
I see.
And you can tell by the tone, of when people type to you. It's easier when you hear their voice. It's harder when you read their words, unless it's all caps.
Right.
And they're typing to you, right? You're like, wow, this person's not having a good day. Don't let it ever get to your heart.
Okay.
Okay. And I keep a folder of all my good comments. And when I get feeling like somebody's attacking, I go to my good comments and I pull up an email from Tiffany that says, I followed your advice and now I have sponsors for my podcast and now we're moving forward and I have the money to do what God's called me to do. I look at that email and then I delete the other one that says I'm not doing a good job because I know that I helped you. And if my podcast only helped you, which means you helped someone else multiplied by your listenership, then I've done the right thing. I can pack it all up, put my microphone away. I'm done because you've been helped.
Wow.
And that's what I look at. That's how I look at my opportunity. This is my platform. I build it. I'm responsible for it. And I need to take the criticism and I need to take the praise and I need to handle them the same way.
Wow, Dave, what a mature and developed way to really handle that. That's huge. And I think that it still issues a love and respect to our community, which is what we're here for, what we're trying to do. I love keeping the record of all the rights, if you will, because I would imagine while I am barely getting my toes wet in this industry, if you will, I can imagine that it can probably get a little lonesome in the area of encouragement if you're not careful. And so I love that. Let me ask this. So I see all these groups and we've talked about them a little bit. I love the meetup, I think you called it. But we see all these podcasting groups. Is it important? Do we need to get with other podcasters? Is it important to have that also as a part of our community?
That's a great question. I think if you hang out with other podcasters, whether it's like what we're doing right now,
Sure.
listening to other podcast shows about podcasting, growing as a podcaster, I think hanging out with another podcaster is nice because they know what you're trying to do and you know what they're trying to do.
Sure.
You have something in common. And even though you might be talking about different topics, you're both trying to do the same technology. You're both learning. You can grow from each other and you can be accountable to each other. It would be the same as two authors writing books by themselves. Wouldn't it be great if the two authors connected and kept each other on course? How are you doing with your first chapter? Oh, I'm really struggling today. I'm not feeling motivated. Well, here's what I do as an author to get motivated. Maybe it'll help you. And you work together. And then you both come to the day where your books are launched and you celebrate together. Like, what a great way to write a book. Don't do it by yourself in the corner and feel discouraged. Maybe there's someone who could come around you and say, you're doing a really good job. Your episodes are awesome. I love your voice. That last episode was great when you came on and talked about your wins. That changed my life. You changed my week. Who doesn't need that? The one thing I love to do is I love to be the person that gives that. Does it always come back? Not always. But is that the reason why I'm giving? No. If the reason why I'm giving is to get, that's backwards. So to go to a conference to receive instead of going to the conference to give.
Right.
I think if we all went to these events as giving people, not as coming to get better or level up or learn something, that's going to happen. But if we all walk through the door, how can I serve you? Imagine what the next conference or meetup or meeting would look like if everyone was there to help each other. There was no egos. There was no, I'm better than you. I've been doing this longer. I know more than you do. But everyone walked in with humility saying, Tiffany, what can I do to serve you today?
Wow. Wow.
Imagine that.
So
that's kind of my approach. So I think connecting with other podcasters, however you can do that, reach out to other podcasts that you listen to as well and tell them what you think of them. We ask people all the time to give us a rating, a review, some feedback. But when was the last time us podcasters, we've done that for another podcast?
Wow.
I know I don't do it often enough. And I listen to a lot of shows. I need to finish up here after being with you and go and tell them what their podcast means to me.
Yeah.
Because I listen to them all the time. And I take it for granted they know. And our audience takes it for granted that we know.
Sure. Wow.
And you saw what happens when you ask your audience for help.
Certainly.
They step up.
Certainly. You know,
Right.
There's such a power in positivity and really having that purposeful intent to be a giver, to be someone who wants to bless. And, Dave, it's funny because while this is a new area to explore for me as far as in podcasting, my primary focus is ministry. But as of late, it's been on my heart to say, hey, I'm praying for your service this morning. I just want to let you know. And that has really encouraged some men and women of God to preach their best, to push into what God has. And so if it works in that realm, it'll work in this one. And I can only imagine what it would feel like to have someone say, hey, I believe in your podcast. I see what you're doing. You're growing. Good for you. Something that's so empowering. And I love that. I love networking and I love the idea of that. So when do you know, Dave, and I know we're probably getting closer to our time, but when do we know when we're burning out? Like, we talked last time a little bit about, okay, we can have some freedom. We don't have to do 10 hours of podcasting a day. We don't have to do every holiday. We don't have to push through our illnesses. And that was so liberating. But when is a time where you go, I got nothing? I just feel drained and dry. Does that time ever come? Or what do you do to avoid it? Or what do you do if it's happening?
I love it. We are all real people.
Okay.
Our audience knows that we're real people. They have the same struggles that we have. So to get on the microphone and say, hey, everyone, I'm going to need a couple weeks. There's some health things going on in my family. There's some big events happening. I'm going away for a few weeks. I just need a break. Would love for your love and prayers while I take a break. I promise I'll be back on this date.
Right.
And I'll give you an update on where I'm at. But I just need a break. A lot of people think they need to do their podcast in seasons, where they do season 1 and then they take 6 months off and they come back and do season 2. In those 6 months that you're off, though, your audience is not going to be driving to work in silence because you're not there. They're going to listen to something else. Will they come back? For sure. Many of them will. Some of them might not. But we don't have to actually do seasons if we don't want to. You can do a podcast and do it as often as you want and take a break as often as you want.
Wow.
As long as you communicate with your audience and your community. The reason why I would say that is they're concerned for you.
Right.
If all of a sudden your podcast just stopped, I would be reaching out through email. I'd be like, are you guys okay? Like, do you need anything? Like, is everything all right? Because normally I see you on my phone every Monday morning at 6 a.m. and it's been 3 weeks. And you're part of my habit. You're part of my go-to. You're the one thing that starts my week and makes my day. And I miss you. So I just want to make sure you're okay.
Wow.
Jumping on and saying, hi, it's Tiffany. I just need to take a few weeks and we got some stuff going on. We'll let you know everything's good. We're fine. Just would love for your prayers and concern, all your love and your emails. Thank you so much. Keep them coming. I'll be back on October 1st.
And is it okay?
And your audience goes, okay.
I love that. I love the care and concern. Is it okay at that point, though, Dave? Say we take the break and we've communicated appropriately. Can we go into the land of replay? Is it okay to do that at that point?
For sure. I would bring back one of your best episodes and then one of the episodes that just never hit. Maybe you really had good expectations for that episode, and for some reason the listenership was really low, but the content was amazing.
Okay.
Maybe it was the title of the episode. Maybe it was the show notes. Maybe it was the image that you used to promote it. There was something, or just bad timing. Maybe something else was going on in the world that captivated everyone's attention, and your podcast didn't get listened to. That's not fair. Grab that content that has 5 or 10 listens and put it back out again. And just put right on there, re-released or reviewed or bringing this back. You could jump on and do a little intro and say, hi, everyone. This was episode 5. I know, we're at episode 100. But episode 5 was really meaningful for me as a host. And I want to give you an update, and I want to share the episode for you again. If you've already heard this, you don't need to listen, but I would love for you to listen again because you might hear something new. But for those that are new to the community, you just showed up here at maybe episode 50 or 60. You may not have heard episode 5 ever before. I really want you to hear this. It means so much to me. And this guest was amazing. The story was amazing. And you need to hear this episode.
Oh, wow.
So while we're on break, here's one of our best episodes. And here's one of the episodes that I think you need to go back and listen to again.
Wow.
Sure.
I love that. I love that you would pick maybe I think we would all naturally go, oh, let me pick my best episode, most viewed rather, So I love that we can actually bring that up and say, hey, this is important. I think what has really revealed to me in my walk away from really the last 2 meetings me and you have had is care and transparency are building community. And that's it. There's no magic formula of ratings and numbers and care and transparency. You're building a community, and so I'm loving that. So often we'll play games on our phone. We build these farms and houses and it takes care and consistency and diligence. And yet when it comes to personally executing it, face-to-face value, we're going, I don't know. I don't know if people will care, but I assure us, I guess, if we're worried about our grapes growing on our fake garden online, we're probably really more concerned about the people who are listening to our voices. It's a personal thing. It can even be an intimate thing. You're sharing your hearts. And so I love the value of saying, hey, I want to let you know what's going on in my world as well. I'm not just speaking into yours. That's so powerful.
It's beautiful. It's amazing. And if you are an owner of a sweet tea company in the U.S., and you want to sponsor an amazing podcast,
hey, y'all.
We have coffee covered. We need some sweet tea here. Come on.
Hey.
Reach out to Tiffany as well. We'll have links in the show notes. You never know. There could be someone out there that's like, I've been looking to sponsor a podcast and I have no idea where to go. Your podcast is perfect for me. So absolutely. Sweet tea, trucks backing up to the door, money coming in to support. Come on. We can make that happen. So yeah, if you're out there and you have a sweet tea company, reach out to Tiffany. She needs to talk to you today.
Today. Right? Yes, today. Amen.
Tiffany, anything else that I can help you with in our conversation? I love having you on. You're a great person to speak with.
It has been so amazing, Dave. I've gained so much. I believe the listeners surely have. This has been such an enriching talk the last 2 episodes. I'll be honest, I'm actually blessed to have them so that I can go and review them again because there's so many little nuggets that once you get past the 2 or 3 you've executed, there's 2 or 3 more. And so I think this will go into my file bank for how to podcast for a very long time. So I am so grateful and humbled to be here. Thank you for all of your love and generous wisdom sharing. So thank you so much.
Amazing. Okay, Tiffany, again, share all the great things you do with your wonderful husband, who you serve, where we can connect. We need to do that as well.
Absolutely. So I'm Tiffany Bell. My husband and myself have a ministry called Yielded Life. You can find us on all of your social media sites under that name. You can also visit us online at www.yieldedlife.org. We are currently very focused on prison ministry. We're getting copies of my husband's second book, Yielded the Posture of True Love, into those prisons for free. If you want to be a part of that giving, you can donate right at yieldedlife.org, and we would appreciate anyone's support and prayers.
Amazing. And if you have time, talent, or treasure that you can donate to these amazing people, please reach out, offer your services, offer your love and your support because they're doing great work and helping many, many people. So the results are there. So you can't argue with results. So thank you so much for being part of this. Can you come back again sometime? Is that okay?
I would love to. I'm actually going to miss you in the audience. This has been so rewarding. Yes, anytime you let me know, Dave.
Okay. The door is always open. Everyone, make sure you go check out the show notes. And if something caught your attention today in our conversation, I would love to hear about that as well. Howtopodcast.ca. There's a little speak pipe there, leave us a message and we can include that. And if it's a message for Tiffany, I will pass it on as well. So thank you so much again, Tiffany, for being part of this.
Thank you.